Kishimoto along with Ikemoto have successfully manipulated the whole Boruto fandom into believing the biggest lie of the story. The whole new Otsutsuki lore about Kaguya and Ishhiki was just a false narrative given by the insecure pair to assert some dominance over Amado. What I mean is that everything revealed by Ishhiki was nothing but a big fat lie, and the reasons are fully justified. He was never the higher ranking Otsutsuki and was betrayed because he was too weak, and the hints are all over the place. First off, we have opening 12 of Boruto, where they show us Kaguya above all the other Otsutsuki and the cyborgs. Ishhiki is ranked below Momoshiki and Kinshiki, and while this doesn't necessarily mean that he's weaker than them, it definitely hints at his lower stature when compared to Kaguya, and here is why. First off, we have the symbolism of the horns, which are present on every Otsutsuki's head. They seem to follow a visual pattern, which differentiate the higher and lower ranks. Kaguya has two prominent curved horns that resemble rabbit ears, giving her a regal and symmetrical look, while Momoshiki, a confirmed higher ranking Otsutsuki, also has two flat curved horns, which become even more pronounced after he absorbs Kinshiki. In contrast, Ishhiki has a single asymmetrical curving horn that wraps around his head like a crown, starting from his left brow and ending on the right, while Kinshiki, Momoshiki's confirmed lower ranking pair, similarly has just one long horn above his left eye. This two horns for superiors and one for subordinates pattern isn't coincidental. It aligns perfectly with the known pairs. So if we apply it to Kaguya and Ishhiki, it indicates that Kaguya was the higher ranked one, with her dual horns symbolizing greater authority or power potential. And if we go beyond horns, there is also a broader visual symmetry. Higher ranks like Kaguya and Momoshiki have more youthful, delicate features like soft faces and long flowing hair in zigzag patterns, while lowers like Ishhiki and Kinshiki appear more rugged and aged, with Kinshiki depicted as an old warrior, much like the middle-aged aesthetic of Ishhiki. This possibly indicates that lowers are seasoned fighters meant for sacrifice, while superiors are the princes or princesses preserved for evolution. Well, the hints don't stop here, as we also have statements of Momoshiki and Kinshiki, which indicate that Ishhiki was an inferior Otsutsuki from the beginning. The video gets crazier later on, as we will dive into the possibility of Shibai's second pair by considering the superior horn theory. But before all that, let's look at how Momoshiki proved the inferiority of Ishhiki. In the anime, Momoshiki uses the word Kaguya's world or Kaguya's planet during their investigation into why she stopped reporting back to the clan. He doesn't mention Ishhiki at all, even though they were supposedly partners. If Ishhiki was truly the leader overseeing the harvest, why isn't it Ishiki's planet or their shared assignment? This implies that Kaguya was the primary authority figure assigned to Earth, with Ishhiki as her support and potential sacrifice. Momoshiki was solely focused on Kaguya's betrayal and attachment to the planet, treating her as the key player, which acts as further evidence that she was the higher rank in charge. Now this doesn't stop here, as we have the Rinnegan superiority of the Otsutsukis. The higher ranking Otsutsuki seem to have innate access to advanced eyes for absorbing and converting subordinates into power. Momoshiki had used the Rinnegan to turn Kinshiki into a chakra fruit for consumption. Kaguya similarly possessed the Rinne Sharingan and demonstrated absorption abilities like merging with the God Tree and creating infinite Tsukuyomi to harvest life energy. Ishiki's Dojutsu and abilities, on the other hand, are more utility focused for survival and combat, lacking that direct consumption attribute. If Kaguya was higher, then her genetics were primed for evolution through sacrifice, while Ishiki's were more or less supportive, further hinting at his inferiority. Moreover, what Amado had revealed hints at Kaguya sabotaging Ishhiki into a surprise attack, nearly killing him with her ash bones when he was vulnerable. But if Ishhiki was truly superior, how did a subordinate overpower him so decisively? And that's why it makes more sense if their roles were reversed. As the higher ranking Otsutsuki, Kaguya could have decided against sacrificing Ishhiki because she grew attached to Earth and humanity. Ishhiki, who barely survived, then twisted the narrative to portray himself as the victimized leader. His long-term hiding by possessing a monk and building Kara feels more like a lower ranking Otsutsuki scrambling for revenge, not a superior reclaiming his domain. This solidifies more when you look at how Momoshiki and Kinshiki were sent to investigate the planet, cause the clan presumed Kaguya had gone rogue, but they never mentioned Ishhiki even for a second. But if Ishiki was truly the higher ranking one, wouldn't the clan have records of him as the lead? This gap suggests that Ishiki was a forgettable subordinate, while Kaguya was the notable figure. Additionally, Kaguya created the White Zetsu army out of fear of the clan's retaliation from figures like Momoshiki, implying that she viewed them as threats to her authority. Well, this gets more interesting as we move further, so make sure you are already subscribed to not miss the theories that I have cooked for the future. So I have been putting some emphasis on how Amado may have been inspired from this 10 Tails dimension while creating his cybernetic technology. This similarity between the mountain found in this dimension and the object used in Delta's reactivation fuels this possibility more. So basically it was Jigen who introduced this dimension to him, where he quickly figured out how to utilize the tech in his own ways, and that's how the formidable cyborgs were formed. Now Ishiki's morale in this dimension ranks above Kaguya, showing that he was superior. But what if even that was a fabrication? There is a chance that Ishiki revamped the tablets to show himself as the superior in order to make Amado believe the same. Looking at how we had no other source to confirm this backstory, while Ishiki was the only source of Amado, brings in the possibility of narrative bias. Ishiki didn't want to be seen as a weak subordinate who got betrayed mercilessly, so he made sure to make himself appear as the superior one of the duo. Also, we were never told why Kaguya turned against Ishiki. Was it because she fell in love with the humans, something that went against their combined goal, or is it just that Ishiki was never too important to her, so she disposed her after changing her plans, and that's why she feared the arrival of new Otsutsuki? So the most reasonable cause for Ishiki to plan this much could be because he was ashamed of his lower status, which eventually got him almost killed, and he didn't want his new team to look down upon him because of what had actually happened. When he gives that infamous "Shinobi are nothing more than tools" speech to Koji, it actually comes from the bottom of his heart, cause he was also used and disposed like a tool by someone. Ironically enough, it was only through the descendants of Kaguya that Ishiki again failed in his plan, meaning his statement about destiny being pre-written by genes connected all the dots as well. So you all must be familiar with how Boruto's horn looking more like Shibai than Momoshiki hints at him being a potential reincarnate of the Otsutsuki god. But when we take this horn at face value, it also looks similar to Kinshiki, which led to some belief that it was the DNA of the subordinate Otsutsuki which made Boruto's horn grow like this. But what if we keep that theory aside for a while and focus solely on how Shibai's horn looks similar to Kinshiki? It brings in the huge possibility that Shibai was actually the subordinate to some other Otsutsuki, meaning he was the lower ranking pair, leading to the possibility that the other Otsutsuki god was either superior, or he also betrayed his partner to himself become a god Otsutsuki by carving his own path. The two missing Otsutsuki sigils indicate the same. They have been destroyed mysteriously, as if someone tried to erase them from history. We know it's the writer's way to set up big things for the future, but when we look at how Shibai may be the weaker pair, whose path of becoming an Otsutsuki god included betrayal, there we get the possibility of a main villain, who could be the final boss of the story. Momoshiki said that Otsutsuki gods have changed humanity's history before, meaning they were more than one in number. And when you look at how Shibai may have been trying to influence Boruto's life for a greater purpose, it could actually have something to do with protecting the universe from getting extinct. Now this is not some headcanon that I just came up with to fill in the gaps. Instead, the hints to back this up are hidden within Samurai 8, Kishimoto's other manga, where we saw two similar deities having a similar conflict. The only difference is that in that universe, the entities shared a student-teacher relationship, while in Boruto, they could be a part of the same Otsutsuki duo. So basically in Samurai 8, the tale of Hachimaru, there is a character named Fudomuyo, who is shown as the ultimate creator god. He made the universe out of nothing, be it the galaxies, dimensions, life, and even the samurai system. But just because he's a pure creation, he cannot destroy or fight directly. To keep the balance going, he passes pieces of his power through some special boxes that some chosen samurai use to protect order. Now when we compare that to Shibai Otsutsuki in Boruto, he's like the Boruto's version of a creator god. By eating countless chakra fruits, he attained a state beyond physical form, and his powers like omnipotence are the peak peak of Otsutsuki evolution. Just like Fudomuyo, Shibai is also immovable as he has ascended to another dimension while his body is just a husk and his powers spread indirectly. Amado, for example, gave fragments of Shibai's abilities to cyborgs like Aida and Daemon. Shibai doesn't fight in person cause he's already transcended. Instead, his leftover essence fuels others. Now when we talk about Kala, who used to be Fudomuyo's disciple and was once loyal, but over time he decided the universe Fudomuyo had created was flawed and ugly. As the originator of the destructive Usosama style, Kala destroyed planets by himself and now wants to wipe out the whole galaxy using Fudomuyo's own power boxes so he can rebuild it into what he thinks is true beauty. He isn't just a standard villain, he is the opposite side of Fudomuyo's philosophy where the warrior god represents pure creation while Kala represents destruction as a necessary reset just to achieve perfection. What makes Kala especially dangerous is that even though he started as a student, he can do things that Fudomuyo cannot. The warrior god is bound by his role as a creator, but Kala has full freedom to act, which gives him a destructive edge where he's more active than the god who made him. Now when we look at the Shibai subordinate theory, something adds up pretty much perfectly, and here is how I think it could go down. The superior partner of Shibai could have become more powerful Otsutsuki god, and in order to counter his plans, Shibai might have himself evolved to stop him from going too far. The superior Otsutsuki god could have more powers over reality and everything, and what makes this more reasonable is the fact that there was already a primary Otsutsuki god figure called Kami, who created the infinite possibilities of the Narutoverse and everything that it holds. So assuming he's more powerful than Shibai Otsutsuki, who became a god later by consuming chakra fruits, there's a chance that Shibai's subordinate may have unlocked superior powers too. Maybe the ones that would put the whole universe on stake, just like the case of Kala and Fudomuyo. So Boruto becoming the Hashimaru of this verse, to ultimately stop the big bad entity from creating any mess or destroying the universe, becomes a huge possibility. Maybe that's why Shibai is trying to keep him alive in every fatal situation. His ultimate role could be to finish the tale of Hashimaru and defeat the person who could bring an end to his universe. If you want to know more about the missing Otsutsuki theory, make sure to check out this video on the right now, and I will see you next time.